Are you good for me to go ahead and start?
Yeah.
Okay. Just go with me. I'm going to try something.
Yeah.
Okay. Ooh, and welcome to a very special spooky episode of From Art to Adams.
The only thing spooky about that was your voice. This is going to be our Halloween episode of From Art to Adams.
We record our episodes about 4 to 5 weeks in advance of when they are released, and so this episode is going to actually be coming out on Halloween Day. So we thought, why not do something a little on the spooky side? Mm-hmm. I'm Brandon Shoemaker, by the way.
I'm Michael Fols.
And yes, this is From Art to Adams,
the Ultimate Curiosity Show.
But we're taking a detour from art and Adams.
And we're going towards murder.
Yes, we're going to talk about the most commonly talked about topic in all of podcastdom, I believe, and that's a serial killer.
Yes.
But it's a very special serial killer for us.
We are fortunate enough to live in the town where this serial killer was found.
Yeah, so we live in Texarkana, Texas, which it's not a big town, but it's not a small town either. It's
a medium town.
It's a medium town,
yes.
Yeah, and it is like the largest town within what would you say, like a good 2-hour drive in any direction.
Tyler, Texas, and
the largest metropolitan, and those are not big towns. I'm talking about like
south of us.
I'm talking about like big cities. You've got Shreveport is the closest, followed by Dallas.
Dallas 3 hours away, a little over 3 hours away.
So Texarkana is kind of a hub where we are, and I guess it probably was back in the time.
Yes,
of
it was
this,
the railroad. The railroad built this town. Back in the early, 1800s.
It's been around 200 years now?
Yeah.
Was it? We just had our or was it our centennial that we just had?
Centennial. I think it was like 18 something.
We're not very good residents, obviously. But no, but in the 1946, Texarkana actually had a string of serial murders that remain unsolved to this day.
To this day, that they do not know.
Yeah, and he was dubbed the Phantom Killer.
And if you've ever seen or heard of the movie, I know they did one in the 70s, I believe,
and then they
redid it probably about 10 years ago. The Town That Dreaded Sundown is based on these murders that occurred here in town. And so every single year, and that's what got us thinking about this podcast, is every single year our local park does fall movies in the park, and they show movies on a big screen outside. And it's always the month of October they do these, and the last one of the month is always the Phantom Killer that is shown in the park where supposedly some of the murders took place.
Well, not supposedly. I mean, on record, not the last couple, but the next to last couple was killed in Spring Lake Park, it says.
Oh, well, so that's where it's kind of now.
And I'll preface this with my exposure to this. So you've lived in Texarkana. We just talked about this last night. How long now? 8 years? 7 years?
No, it'll be 9 years next year. So
okay.
8 years, yeah. 8 years.
So I first came to visit Michael here in Texarkana
during COVID shutdown.
No. That wasn't the first time.
Okay.
I had been out here twice before that, 2 summers in a row. So then 2 summers before that would have been 2018, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
When did you buy your house? It was the first summer after you bought the house.
No, that would have been 2019 then, because we bought it in 18.
Oh, okay.
In August of 18.
Okay, so then COVID shutdown was the second time I came here, I think then. Okay. Anyway, so the first time that I came to visit him, it was in the summer while I was off from school, and he and Thomas were off from school too, obviously. And I had done some other traveling. And in fact, the week before I came out here, I went to Ohio to visit my friend Mason. And I told him, after I leave here, I'm going to visit Michael in Texarkana. And he said, oh, that's where they had the Phantom Killer. And I had actually not even heard about this at that point, but he showed me a documentary on Netflix that was actually discussing it. And that was my first exposure to the Phantom Killer. And so then I, drive out here to Texarkana, and the morning after I arrive, Michael asked me, you want to go with me and the dogs to the dog park? And I said, yeah, absolutely. And so we go driving up, and just right around the corner from his house, we pull into the park, and it is Spring Lake Park. And I just looked at him and I said, Spring Lake Park? I said, that's Spring Lake Park? And he said, what Spring Lake Park? I said, where the murders happened? He said, yeah. So I was, and now of course I go to Spring Lake Park all the time, so it's not a thing. But that was my first exposure to Spring Lake Park, was that I was going into the site of the murders, which was a little off-putting to say the least.
Like I said, I have never gone to see this movie in the park.
I've actually never seen the movie at all.
Okay, well,
I've just heard about it. I know it was a very sort of, at least the 1970s. I'm sure the one 10 years ago was no better. But
well, yeah, no, they show the original movie in the park. So number one, I'm not going to go tempt fate. I've seen too many movies that kind of like, when you're supposed to run, you run. Yeah. And I'm not going to go ahead and just kind of like go exploring something. I'm not going to put myself in a situation where a copycat killer is going to end up,
massacring people in the park.
Yep. Nope. Mm-mm. So we are going to talk a little bit about the murders themselves and, what happened here. There's a lot of lore around it,
Yeah. And there's lots of hearsay and things just like how Michael was uncertain at first about the fact that some of them happened in Spring Lake Park.
Yeah. But, this area, it's so weird to be in this area, though. First of all, let me explain, because just about 20 miles south of us, we have a town in Arkansas called Fouke, and they're known for the Boggy Creek Monster.
Yeah. Which is something I had heard about long before coming here.
And so it's a lot of hoobaluba, in this area.
And the Boggy Creek Monster essentially is
very
Bigfoot,
similar to
right?
Bigfoot. Yeah. Very, very similar to Bigfoot. There's a Boggy Creek down that area, and supposedly in the 1930s they found footprints of an enormous monster, and
that's all. They just found footprints. There weren't.
No, there were sightings and stuff like that too.
I was about to say, footprints are not something to get me excited.
No, there were sightings, but again, it's like when the aliens get seen, it's always people that are
Meemaw in her curls.
Yes. So, I don't know if Grandpa Dale saw the Boggy Creek Monster or not. So, anyway, back to the Phantom Killer. So, in the park, and again, this is just, it occurred in 1946. Is a 10-week period where there was a string of murders in town, or attempted murders.
From February to May?
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah.
Not everyone died. And so
two of the victims survived.
Right. And so they call the Phantom Killer murders, but you can also, if you're going to research it, look it up as the Texarkana Moonlight Murders. There are 5 unsolved killings that occurred in that period of time. And so we live in a town where we are twin cities that sit right on the border of the state line between Texas and Arkansas. So the way our town is set up is that we have a Texarkana, Texas side and a Texarkana, Arkansas side. So we are one city but 2 states, essentially. And so some of these murders took place on the Arkansas side, and some of these murders took place on the Texas side. So it's in the general area of Texarkana itself. Yeah. So
although, being split between 2 states, that meant that the FBI had to get involved, which we just found out while we were show prepping right before we went on air. Or this isn't technically air. It doesn't matter. Anyway, before we started recording, we just discovered that, was it last year?
Yeah, that the FBI has opened up over 1,000 pages of documents to this case.
Yeah, it said more than 1,100 pages are now available for public perusal, and we just briefly started looking at the first couple pages, and we're just like, wow, this is a lot.
Right. And so again, a little bit of background. There's some general stuff that happened. So there were 8 victims and 2 survived, and 8 were killed, I believe.
No.
No,
5
8 total.
5 were killed.
5 were killed.
So 3 survived. Sorry.
Okay.
Math. Not my
But
strong suit.
all the victims were couples, so it was based on a couples thing, and these couples back in the 40s went to Lover's Lane, or they found little roads to go parking and necking.
Necking.
So,
who says necking anymore?
I don't
know. That was only used in the 40s, I think. I used that
well,
once because I've always been an old soul. I mentioned the term necking to one of my friends when I was a teenager. They were like, "What?" And I was like, "Necking," like kissing a lot. And they said, "You mean making out?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah.
Well, don't they use necking in Greece?
The movie. I thought you meant Greece, the country.
No, the movie. Don't they use necking or something like that?
I don't know. Maybe
Kinnicky with the hickey.
it was. It was always a term. Like I learned the term from Happy Days. So
anyway, so we're in this time frame, so why not just use the vocabulary? Anyway, so they found these couples. Yeah. And so they found these couples, and they were targeted on weekend evenings. So again, don't go out after dark on the weekends.
Same thing that Jason taught you.
That's right. See, there you go. And so the first incident with this killer was basically a couple.
Jim Hollis and Mary Jean Larry.
Larry. Yeah, Larry. They had gone to the movies and parked their car in a secluded road that was considered a local lover's lane. So what do you think they're going to go do? And so then a man walks up with a white cloth mask with eye holes, shining a flashlight through windows on the driver's side of the car, and decides that he was going to basically rob them at this point. And so there was just an assault there. They weren't killed or anything like that. There was a skull fracture
to Hollis.
Yeah. So he was injured there. And so Mary ended up just kind of being hit also with a blunt object, more than likely a gun that, they never did find. So I guess the phantom killer at that point ran after her. He ran after her, and she thought that she was going to, she was sexually assaulted with a pistol. And so she was basically not killed there, and the cops were flagged down, and the attacker ran off. So that's kind of where it ends there for them. Okay. They did get a general description of him being 6 feet tall?
Yeah, 6 feet tall, light-skinned, African-American. Jim said that he was tanned white man.
Right. So there was some confusion on what they saw. Okay. So that was mid-February, I guess. Was it when the first one took place?
I think so.
Or late February. And so then about a month later, end of March, we have the first killings of the case itself. Where around
March 24th.
Yep. So Richard Griffin and Polly Ann Moore were parked about a mile outside of Texarkana.
That's a big age difference. He was 29, she was 17.
Well, it was in the 40s. You could do that back then.
Yeah.
But they found them in the car, or someone found them. A motorist discovered them in the car.
Thought they were sleeping.
Right. And they were not sleeping. Griffin was found between the front seats on his knees, his head resting in his hands, his pockets turned out, and Moore was face down in the back seat. And they discovered that they had been shot twice. That Griffin was shot twice, and that Moore was shot in the head while on a blanket outside the car and then put back into the back seat.
Yeah, so staged.
Right. So there was some small of an investigation in there, and obviously, the crime scene was probably, I don't want to say tainted, but at that point had been compromised because they weren't discovered until later the next morning. But obviously people were curious about it, and so there was a lot of stuff going there. And so then probably about maybe 3 weeks later, we have another murder that takes place, and I think this is where they started kind of piecing together that it was the same person doing this.
Yeah,
because it was similar to what had happened in the previous murder and then also the previous assault.
Yeah, so on that one, it was on April 14th, and then Paul Martin and Betty Jo Booker had left an event at the local VFW, and it was after 2 a.m. when they left. And then after Betty Jo never came home, her family called the police, and they started a search party. Paul was the first to be found lying beside the road. He had been shot 4 times to the face, shoulder, hand, and the back of his neck. And his car was a mile away, abandoned, with the keys still in it. Betty Jo was found the next or later that day, 2 miles away in a wooded area, shot once in the head and again once in the chest. And so that's at this point, the police started realizing that this wasn't just sexual assaults or robberies, that these were actual serial murders, that was the intent of the killer.
Mm-hmm.
And they did have, some evidence at that time. It just, reading cases like this always makes me wonder, what could be done if, this happened today? Would they have, because you hear so much about DNA evidence and all this forensic evidence that the police can use today. It just makes me wonder if, this case would have been more easily solved, had they had the technology that we have now, because they knew that they knew the weapon. It was a .32 pistol, and they had fingerprints of the killer, because they were able to eliminate all of the victims from the handprint that they found.
So after that case, there was the very last one.
Yeah.
Where one gentleman was killed and his wife survived, although she was injured. So the last case was early May. And again, around 9 o'clock at night, a gentleman by the name of Virgil Starks was basically kind of sitting in his living room while his wife was already in bed. She hears a noise of breaking glass, goes to check on her husband. He slumped over, bleeding a lot, and discovered that he had been shot twice in the head from outside, which is where the breaking of the glass comes in at. And so before she could react to it, she was then targeted and shot twice in the head, but fell and
didn't die.
Didn't die, yeah. And so she then heard the attacker struggling to get in through the window, I'm assuming where the glass had been broken out at. And so she ran out the front door because the window was in the back of the house. She was rushed to a hospital and survived. And she lived until 1994. So we're talking about 50 years she survived after
and
that.
continued to live in Texarkana.
Yes. She was not afraid. So, you go, Katie Starks. So there was a lot of...
I wonder if she's just related to
Betty Lynn. I don't know. But I know a couple of Larrys
I would assume it would be her husband's family.
Yeah, so, I know a lot of Larrys also.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought that was a common name
here in town.
Yeah.
And so, there was a lot of, like Brandon said earlier, because we're dealing with a lot of different avenues of jurisdiction. There was, you had the FBI in, you had the Texas Rangers, which is the state police there at that point. The local police department. We also have a sheriff's department for each county also.
Yeah. So we've got the Miller County Sheriff on the Arkansas side and the Bowie
Cass County. Well, no, Cass County, which is near Atlanta in that area. So outside also. So they had also neighboring county, as well as Texarkana, Texas Police, and Texarkana, Arkansas Police also. So you're dealing with a lot of different things. I'm not sure if Bowie had a sheriff's department just yet at that time.
Oh, okay.
Because they would be involved in that. I'm sure it was just the Texarkana Police at that point.
Oh, probably. Yeah.
So, and so a lot of things were put in place to protect people. Curfews were in place. A lot of people obviously stocked up on guns, waiting for the killer in their parked cars. They kind of staged like a trap. I guess they wanted to play Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
To try to catch the killer. But, the police were like, don't do that. You're going to end up getting yourself killed. So officially, the killer was never caught or never identified. Now, there was a suspect, obviously, Yule Sweeney, I guess. Or it's Sweeney,
yeah.
Yeah. They kind of pegged him as the killer. And
it sounds like he was an easy target, though, because he was a known local car thief and counterfeiter.
Right. So, they're trying to pin on anybody. But his wife was arrested as an accomplice in one of his car thieves. And so she provided some information, but then kind of backtracked because she didn't want to be incriminated herself. And so because they were charging him for the murders off of her statement, she didn't want to testify against him. So some believe that the plea deal to go to prison for him for habitual car thief was a way of avoiding the murder charge and the death sentence of the killers themselves. So he was released from prison in 1974 and then died in a nursing home in Dallas in 1994 also, which is kind of odd because that's also when Katie Starks was killed.
Yeah.
Or finally, not killed, but finally died of natural causes. So that is the Phantom Killer. That's the background of it. Now, Like I said, there's 2 movies, 1970 version of it, 1976, and then also a 2014 version that is based on the Moonlight Murders. And again, both movies are called The Town That Dreaded Sundown.
And then there's not another movie, but there's a book by Dr. James Presley that came out in 2014 also, The Phantom Killer, Unlocking the Mystery of the Texarkana Serial Murders, which I have not read, but were you able to find it on Amazon?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's on Audible.
Oh, good. Okay. I'm definitely going to order that and read that because I love, a good true crime read. But,
Well, I just want to point out, like, the movies themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So the 2014 version of it is, I don't want to say a continuation, but remember how I was telling you that I'm not going to the park to watch this movie?
Yeah.
That's the basis for the 2014
Oh,
movie.
really?
People in town are watching the movie and it starts up again.
Oh, okay.
So I don't want to become an actor in a movie. I'm good.
I do want to watch the movies though.
Yeah.
Just because I'm here, why not? But I'm sure it'll. So, have you ever seen the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
Yes.
Did you have the same reaction I did when I first saw it? I felt like my IQ was dropping by exponential points the longer I watched it.
Yep. That's just like the remake also.
I never had any intention of watching that movie. I took a class in college that was called Psychos in Film, which was a great class, but we ended by not unanimous, because by majority vote, we ended the class by studying the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I just wanted to gouge my eyes out with spoons because it was a movie that I saw. Because when I was in high school, I worked in video stores, and so it was a very popular movie to be rented, and I was like, this is the dumbest thing. Just seeing the pictures on the back of it, I was like, I'm never watching this movie because it just looks like I would lose IQ points watching it. And that was confirmed when I had to watch it for class. But it kind of feels like the 70s version of The Town That Dreaded Sundown is going to kind of be the same way.
Yeah.
But I feel compelled, living in Texarkana, I feel compelled to watch it.
I'm looking up right now the markers for Stark's grave. Like, you can go to her grave.
Mm-hmm. Where is it?
It's right off 7th Street, so it's in Hillcrest Cemetery.
Okay.
So I know exactly where the cemetery is at. So we need to go and find it and take a picture of the grave.
Yeah. We'll post that to Instagram.
But anyway, so our town is famous for murders.
Yeah. Well, and okay, so let's just talk about the case itself for a minute, because when I first heard about the Phantom Killer, you know what my mind automatically went to?
What?
The Zodiac Killer. There are just so many similarities. You've got couples that are attacked by a guy wearing a hood over his face with eye holes cut out, in a sack. I mean, using a pistol. And I'm always for a good serial killer conspiracy theory. So I'm like, maybe the reason the Phantom Killer was never caught was because he moved to San Francisco.
I don't think so, but okay.
I mean, maybe.
Or maybe it was Virgil.
Virgil? You mean Ewell?
Yeah.
Virgil was a victim.
I just like that name, Virgil.
Virgil. I do too. I'd like to name a dog Virgil.
I told you I'm naming my next dog Vida. After my aunt. Good old great. My Aunt Vida.
Name your next dog Vida, and I'll name my next dog Virgil.
And it'll be Virgil and Vida.
It's perfect.
Cousins forever.
But no, I mean, I think and don't get me wrong, there are many other things that put Texarkana on the map besides this. Like I said, I didn't learn about this until I was 6 years ago, whenever it was that I first came.
And to be fair, Texarkana is a nice town.
It is, and it's it's immortalized in song many times. It still gets me that, like, some of my friends or like family friends back home have never heard of Texarkana, and I'm like, have you listened to any country music?
Yeah.
It just so I've always known the town of Texarkana just because of the music that it is mentioned in.
Well, we do have a composer, a pianist, Scott Joplin is from here.
Yeah. As well as Otis Williams.
Yep,
is it?
from the
From
Temptations.
the Temptations.
Yep. And Ross Perot.
Yeah. I teach at Texas High School where he graduated, where we are also home to the Ross Perot STEM Academy.
Yep.
So many things put us on the map. The
Yep.
Phantom Killer just being one of them.
Towards Halloween.
Exactly.
It's when we celebrate our murders.
Oh, God. In time for spooky season.
And on that note, let's kill this episode.
Ooh, should we do serial killer trivia?
Yeah, that's definitely not going to be found in the Trivial Pursuit book.
No, we could get ChatGPT. We could get Chatty on it.
Oh, I think we'd just look it up and see. Because remember, Chatty gives us either too easy or too difficult.
That's true. Think we can find serial killer trivia online? Serial killer.
You find everything online, so
trivia.
I'm sure. You ready?
Yep.
You want to go first?
Sure.
Okay, which serial killer was known as the clown killer due to his profession as a part-time party clown?
John Wayne Gacy.
Yes. Who is the infamous serial killer that sent letters to the police signed the Zodiac?
The Zodiac Killer or the 44 caliber killer.
Yep. I'm just going to say the Zodiac killer. Okay.
Yep.
Which serial killer lured his...
Wait, no, the 44 caliber killer was Son of Sam. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, which serial killer lured his victims to a hotel he built, which was later dubbed a murder castle during the 1893 Chicago World's Fair?
H.H. Holmes, often considered America's first serial killer. Wait, no, that was somebody else. Never mind. Alfred Fish, something like that. I don't know.
What serial killer claimed that a demonic dog was instructing him to kill, leading to the nickname
Son of Sam, the 44 caliber killer?
Yeah, but what's his name?
Oh, Berkowitz.
Who is the British serial killer known as the Yorkshire Ripper?
Oh, I'm not
convicted of murdering
British.
13 women between 75 and 80.
I've heard of him, but I don't know if I know his name. The Yorkshire Ripper. Is that what you said?
Yes.
I don't know it. I'll know it when you say it. But
Peter Sutcliffe, Sutcliffe.
Is that the one? Is he?
I don't know.
Swedish or Scandinavian or something?
I have no idea.
Oh, that's all it gave you. Duh.
I am not going to give this. So give me science questions.
You knew those.
No, I didn't. I didn't know I know you go over here to give me names. I don't know these people.
You didn't know Alan Berkowitz? I mean, not
no.
Alan. Is it Alan?
David
Berkowitz.
David. Yeah, no, I did not.
Oh, come on.
I try not to focus on killings.
Well, I don't focus on killings. I do want that to actually be one of our topics is why do serial killers fascinate the human psyche?
They don't fascinate me. They scare the out of me.
Well, as they should, but they also it's, I don't know. I've always found it
fascinating.
Like what's broken in their brain that just makes them want to kill? Like,
what's
I don't
broken
get
in
that.
your brain that makes you want to find out about them?
The curious part that
maybe that's what they were curious about.
Everything I can find out. Yeah.
Power.
Yeah, I think for a lot of them it's about power.
To have power over someone else.
Yeah.
I'm good. I don't need that. I'm a teacher.
Exactly. Like we have any power.
Okay.
How about if I give you easy serial killer questions? Okay.
Can I look up the answers while you're...
No.
You're so mean to me.
Okay.
Okay, go.
Number one. You just had this one. So is that one. Okay. They're all the same questions.
I'm still not going to know, so go anyway.
Hold on. No, we literally just did all these.
Oh, those were easy because I typed in moderate.
Okay. Well, here's okay. Okay, here we go. Ted Bundy escaped from custody how many times before his final capture?
Twice?
Yeah. Good.
There was a twice question mark. Like I wasn't sure.
Yeah. Who was the serial killer and cannibal who became known as the Milwaukee Cannibal? Come on, that's easy. Very prevalent in pop culture lately.
Oh, Dahmer.
Yeah.
Okay. I almost said Evan Peters. Oh, no. He doesn't need people. He just plays one on TV.
Which female serial killer was portrayed by Charlize Theron in the movie Monster?
I have no idea.
None. I never actually saw the movie, but it's another fascinating story. Eileen Wuornos.
I didn't know there was a female serial killer.
Yeah. They're not as prevalent, but you know. What was the real name of the serial killer known as the Night Stalker who terrorized California in the 1980s? Deer in headlights, look again.
David Berkowitz?
Richard Ramirez.
Okay.
Which serial killer known as the Green River Killer was convicted of murdering 49 women in Washington state?
Hal Jordan.
Gary Ridgway.
I was close.
All right. Well, that does it for episode 9 From Art to Atoms.
The Ultimate Curiosity Show.
Thanks for listening to our spooky episode.
And on that note,
we'll see you next week.
Goodbye. You've been listening to From Art to Atoms, The Ultimate Curiosity Show, episode number 9. Your hosts are Brandon Shoemaker and myself, Michael Fultz. The show is produced by Brandon Shoemaker and is available on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show to stay up to date on all of our latest episodes and news. If you have any questions, feedback, or suggested topics you'd like for us to dive into, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can email us at FromArtToAtoms@gmail.com. We would love to hear from our listeners, and we value your input greatly. Don't forget to follow us on social media to stay updated on upcoming episodes and behind-the-scenes content. You can find us on Instagram at From Art to Atoms. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to rate and review us on your favorite podcast platforms. Your support helps us reach even more interested minds just like yours. Thanks for tuning in, and stay curious, everyone.